I was already late for work when it happened. The elevator doors were about to close when my neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez, suddenly stepped in front of me, blocking my way. She didn't smile like she usually did. Her face was pale, her lips pressed tight, as if she'd been rehearsing something serious. She leaned in and whispered, "Do you know who comes to your home every Tuesday?" The question hit me harder than I expected. I laughed nervously and told her she must be mistaken. I lived alone, and Tuesdays were just another workday for me. But she shook her head slowly. She said she'd seen a man leaving my apartment every Tuesday evening, always around the same time. He never waited for the elevator, she added. He always took the stairs, like he didn't want to be seen. The elevator dinged behind us, but my heart was already racing. As I finally stepped inside, I couldn't shake the feeling that something about my life, something hidden, had just been exposed. That night, I barely slept. Every sound in my apartment felt louder than usual, the hum of the refrigerator, the pipes knocking in the walls, footsteps passing in the hallway. I replayed Mrs. Alvarez's words over and over. I worked from home most days, often lost in meetings with my headphones on. Was it really possible that someone could enter and leave without me noticing? The thought made my skin crawl. The following Tuesday, I decided to find out the truth. I cancelled my evening plans, turned off most of the lights, and sat silently on my couch, staring at the door. My phone clock read 6:39 p.m. when I heard it, a quiet knock, not on the door itself, but somewhere close by. Then a strange response, a faint tap from inside my apartment, like an answer to a secret signal. I stood up too quickly, my chest tight. By the time I reached the door, the hallway was empty, only the echo of footsteps fading down the stairwell. Shaken, I searched every corner of my apartment. Closets, bathroom, kitchen, nothing seemed out of place. Then I remembered the small spare room I rarely used, the one filled with old boxes and unused furniture. As I moved things around, my hand brushed against the back of a tall bookshelf, and I felt a draft of cool air. My heart skipped. I pushed the shelf aside and froze. Behind it was a narrow door I had always assumed was sealed shut, painted the same color as the wall. But now it was slightly open. Inside was a dim, narrow service corridor running between apartments. Dusty footprints marked the floor. Suddenly, Mrs. Alvarez's story began to make sense. Someone had been using this passage regularly, and I had never known it existed. Fear slowly gave way to confusion. Why hadn't the landlord mentioned this? And who was really using it every Tuesday? The mystery felt less threatening now, but far more unsettling than before. The answer came the very next day. I ran into my upstairs neighbor, Mr. Lewis, an elderly man who walked with difficulty and rarely left his apartment. When I carefully mentioned the corridor, his eyes softened with relief. He explained that his caregiver visited every Tuesday, using the service passage because the elevator often broke down and the stairs were too hard for him. He'd never meant to scare anyone, he assumed everyone knew about the old corridor. Standing there, I felt foolish for the fear I'd built in my mind. Mrs. Alvarez had only seen fragments of the truth, and my imagination had filled in the rest. That evening, as I rode the elevator home, my apartment finally felt safe again. But I'd learned something important. When we don't have the full story, our minds create one, and it's often far scarier than reality.